Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Pedalshift Project. The Pedalshift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments around the bike touring lifestyle. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride. Let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/095. You can email the show, pedalshift@pedalshift.net, or call the voicemail hotline at 202-930-1109. And you can check out Pedalshift on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 95th episode of the Pedalshift Project. This is Tim Mooney back again, joining you from San Francisco, California. And it's a beautiful, sunny, smoke-free day here. And if you've been following along the tour that I just completed, you know that that was not necessarily always the case. One of the lowlights of the tour that I just went on, of course, were the terrible wildfires that were happening in Northern California, particularly in the Santa Rosa area. Of course, you probably heard about it in the news and all of the real tragedy that surrounded all of that. It definitely impacted my ride. I'm going to talk much more about that next episode, in episode 96. That'll be coming out in a week from when this is being released. But on this episode, I am going to spend basically the next hour or so chatting with a guy that I ended up camping with every single night along the entire route. And this is Daniel from outside of Montreal, Canada. And it was really interesting seeing the ride through his eyes. I thought that this was a really great way to sort of introduce how this ride went. The interesting thing about Daniel is that A, this is his first real bike tour, and B, he's doing the same Pacific Coast ride that I did back in 2014. So I think there's a lot of interesting insight that you get from a first timer, from somebody who's doing a route that you've already been told about, heard about, etc. You can tell I'm still in bike touring head right now, right? And I just thought it was really good. And we had a really good rapport on the ride, and we talk about all the different things that we did, some of the highlights of the ride, and it was really fantastic. And of course, I'll come back next episode and talk even more about all of this as we sort of round out the San Francisco bound ride that started in Newport, Oregon for the final big tour of 2017 for Pedalshift. I'm not going to be wrapping up the year bike-wise, though. I will be doing probably one more weekend, weather willing, with Bell Star on the C&O, and hopefully I'll have some audio for you for that. That'll probably be in early November is my best guess on that. But without further ado, I wanted to introduce you to Daniel from outside of Montreal and our conversation about the 2017 ride. So why don't you tell everybody who you are?
I'm Daniel.
And where are you from?
I'm from Montreal.
A.
Yeah, I'm English Quebecer that started bike touring not even that long ago.
Just like a few days ago.
A few days, and just getting into it and loving every bit of it. So
we met in Newport, literally my first night, and we have camped at every single campsite together all the way down. And tonight is my last night on the trip, so this is a good way to talk about my trip through us having a discussion, which is awesome. So what got you into bike touring?
Mostly, I needed some way to fill time, and I really like biking, and I was like, well, you know what? How can I cover all this land and see really cool places? And I was like, well, car's too expensive. Let's get a bike. It'll be way more fun. And it was. I don't know. So far, 20 days, but I don't know. What changed? I was trying to, think about why I wanted to do it with, in a car and just kind of hopping places, but you don't get the same, interaction with people. I wouldn't have met people like you, and it's a different sort of vibe, and I was like, well, I think I actually want to take it the slow route and faster than walking. I'm not going to do the PCT anytime soon, but...
No. What fool would do that? Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, but I think mostly just because I just love biking, and anytime you're out there, and great way to meet new people, and this coast is basically...
fabulous.
Ideal, because...
Basically, every night, all we do is we just download and we say, dude, that was great. You remember that? Oh, that construction part was really hard. Hey, there's no shoulder there.
Yeah, it's all about, how the hottest spots were and how bad the traffic was, but I feel like that's no matter what. It's so fun, though. You just... Every day, you think it'd be boring, you're just doing the same thing, day in, day out. I was kind of worried about, monotony and things like that, but you never really get tired of it. You're just like, oh, Let's go.
I mean, because you've been going probably, 20 days?
Yeah.
At least 21 days?
Not yet. Almost
There, yeah. Yeah, and that, I mean, when I did this ride in 14, I started you started in Vancouver, I started in Victoria, but
yeah.
I remember by this point, I was just about ready for a break.
Yeah.
So, how are you feeling? Do you need that break now?
Oh, definitely. I'm definitely looking forward to, like, when we hit San Francisco, seeing some friends and taking a day to just take it all in, you know? 'Cause sure, you have time on the way down, but you're still trying to make some goals and things like that. And I think having, like, that off day, like day 0 somewhere would be really a great spot. Would be San Francisco, and then I got another one in Santa Cruz, and maybe we'll have a little one down at Big Sur if we have to figure out how to get through there. But
we'll get to that. We also we should mention, or I should mention, that we're in Bodega Dunes State Park. I think we're about 50 or 60 miles away from San Francisco if you drove it. But biking it, it's about, probably about 40 tomorrow, and then another 30, about 70 some odd miles by bike.
120 kilometers.
Or 120 kilometers. I've been constantly going back and forth with Celsius and Fahrenheit, which is good. And normally my listeners know that I'm good with my international peeps. I try not to be super American centric.
Yeah.
How long have you been what's your biking framework? You haven't been bike touring, but you clearly have bike skills. So, like, what's your background there?
So when I was young, my sister got into mountain biking, oddly enough, and I was like, well, this looks really cool. I want to do this too. So we started racing, and we did races all through the Quebec Cup circuit. And after that, kind of became part of my life, and everything was just, I loved being out there and bouncing along on mountain bikes. And then eventually I got into road biking because it's a lot faster and you can cover a lot more ground.
It is faster.
And you're just kind of like, holy crap, I can go like 70 kilometers an hour and just bomb everywhere, and you can actually like get places. Mountain biking, don't get me wrong, I still love it, and that's why you live out in the West Coast and you can do all like the big stuff out there. But I definitely see road biking as a great means of transportation and just a really fun one. And so I kind of like made the transition probably in like 2010 or something is when I actually started to switch to like more road biking. And then I moved out to Vancouver a little like for university 5 years ago. And then I got back into mountain biking, but you know, it's a bit of both. You kind of get bored of one and switch back. And so now I've done a whole bunch of mountain biking. It's like, well, need a plan, need a trip. Let's try out bike touring and see where we go. And so I think it worked out really well. Yeah.
And so your plans are, you're going to go down to the Mexican border and then work your way back up to Utah, it sounds like. Is that sort of where you're at?
Yeah, that's still where I'm at. That still hasn't changed. I'm working right now. I got messages from my sister, and she says that she'll meet me in Utah. So I got, hopefully this nice-ish weather holds. Let's say I can take cold, but if it starts raining and things like that. But we're going interior for a bit. But I'll probably just go to Las Vegas and then start my tour.
Work your way up,
and get in on Zion and Bryce and all this.
Sweet. We should talk about the weather. We have been so lucky.
Yeah.
So lucky. Like, we have had very little rain. The only rain we had was in Fortuna, and that was like a little shower, and that was it.
Yeah, you were fine.
And I was lazily finishing stuff up at the campground, so I didn't get touched at all. Yeah. But yeah, it's been, compared to my first ride back, oh God, what would that have been, like 2009, 2010, something like that, when I just got hammered at this time of year with rain, just hammered.
That was
going up and over Leggett, hammered. And Leggett Hills, I've talked about this on the pod before. I always want to catch listeners up, is that's the highest point on the Pacific route, and it's the big hill that everybody goes, oh no, Leggett Hill. And it turns out it's really not that bad. It's the second one, Middle Finger Hill, as everybody on my pod knows, every listener. That's the sucky one. But the only thing we've had unseasonably cold weather. Yeah. At night, we dip down close to freezing on at least one night. Yeah. And that's unusual.
Well, I wasn't expecting that.
Me neither.
I came with shorts and t-shirts, right? I was ready for rain, I was ready for fog and things like that, and being damp and sort of uncomfortable, but I have been amazingly, whenever I'll tell people about this trip, I'll be like, yeah, go in October. It's the best weather in the whole time of the year, but...
And you will screw those people hard. They'll be like, but he said it was nice.
Yeah.
While they shiver away.
Every day in the fog and the rain.
Yeah.
I just can't believe it, because... Like, so look at that biker tan right there. Just absolutely.
Total biker tan, yeah. Yeah, I normally love this route because of the fog and because of the, lack of sun. Well, all we've had every day is riding in the sun. And because it's been cooler, it hasn't been so bad. But today, it was 80 Fahrenheit. Mm-hmm. And, and everybody's like, oh my God, it's the surface of the sun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was... The weather's been good, and I don't know, traffic's been minimal.
Yeah, like all the threats of RVs and stuff. Sure, you got a couple of crazies, but most of the time, like, people give you a wide berth, and there's still so many people doing this route this time of year, anyways, that they're pretty used to like having to dodge other cyclists and stuff. Yeah,
the locals definitely. I mean, you'll see tags of cars that are definitely not from around wherever you're at, and you're like, okay, well maybe they don't know, but everybody's been pretty good. I haven't had any shake your fists at the sky kind of moments.
No,
so that's good. I think the one challenge that we've had is have you heard that there are wildfires nearby?
I don't know. I might have smelled something about them, but other than that,
we've been constantly getting from friends, family, and then bystanders. Everybody has been making sure to let us know about the horrible wildfires that are in primarily Santa Rosa, but like really all through kind of the 101 corridor. Now, luckily, we get off 101 at Leggett, and then we've been on the coast since then. But it wasn't really until today that we saw signs of it, and you can kind of see the smoke line. But luckily for us, the winds must have changed or something, because we've been following the EPA maps, and the smoke that was supposed to be here, it's just not apparent. I certainly don't smell it. I don't see it. I don't feel it. So that's good. Now, I understand that that's not the case south of here, so...
Well, we'll see how that works out tomorrow and the next few days, but...
Yeah, because you have plans to basically bike through this gigantic stream of smoke, and the prevailing winds go south, and basically all of these fires are putting their tree smoke and house smoke and all the other tragedy of the whole fire, it's all going south. So what are your plans to handle all of that?
Well... You did supply me with a particle mask.
I did. They only came in packs of 5. We were in Fort Bragg, and of course planner Timmy here had to go seek out a hardware store, and I figured that they would still have them that far north. I asked for the masks, and they're like, well, if we have any left, and I was like, oh no, but we did manage to get a pack of them, so that was good.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to use those if it gets really bad, but for the most part, just hope. If it gets bad, just take it slow. Don't take a rest day or something. You don't need to. I'm in no rush to get to Mexico or anything like that. Yeah. So I think I'm just gonna take it easy. Use the mask if I have to. But all in all, I'm just banking on the winds changing and Thursday to be rainy and changing.
Yeah, there's supposed to be rain on Thursday. So yeah, that would be good if that sort of helped to help the firefighters, help knock the smoke down. I mean, that'd be nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can take a rain day 1 in 20, Pretty reasonable.
You have had a charmed ride so far.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the beginning of your ride, because I want to kind of go through it basically from the beginning, and then I joined the story in Newport. But what was... you did not spend a ton of time on the Canadian side. You started in Vancouver, but what was your route through... north of the border?
So I went Vancouver to Tsawwassen and took the ferry over to Schwartz Bay, and that's on Vancouver Island. And then I met up with some friends in Victoria, so that was a pretty quick day, just down to Victoria. And the next day, tootled around Victoria, caught the ferry over to Port Angeles, and then that day was also short. Found myself a campsite. Got set up, realized that I was doing this for real and actually had to use my tent, and was like, oh, does the stove work and all these things, because the night before I'd been with friends, and was like, oh, now there's nobody else around me. So that those first 2 days, the first day was actually amazing, because it was all on bike paths.
Yeah.
It's the Olympic Peninsula Trail or something
like that, yeah.
And it's just great bike paths, nobody around, and again, sunny weather, of course.
Of course, because the Olympic Peninsula is known for its sunny weather.
Yeah, so I swear by it. Sunny days in October, and then caught up with the ACA route up near Upper Jefferson. There's a campsite up there that I spent the night at, and then just kind of followed the ACA route down. What I will give a shout out to is Elm RV Park. It was definitely a good stop by because it was like my third day, and this day had been raining for the first time, and I was like, oh, I hope my bags are waterproof. I hope that everything survives. Like, oh, this is terrible. And I made it into a long day because there's not a lot of state parks, and there's just sort of like, bleh. So I get to Elm RV Park, and I'm met by this exuberant, like, great, like, I don't know, probably 50-year-old guy, and he's like, cyclists, I love you guys. Like, okay, it's $5 for the night, and you just have this lovely patch of grass over here between some RVs, and I was like, oh, that's all right. And then they give you a big bag of cookies and set you up with a great spot, and I was like, this is everything I needed, and they had hot showers, and so it was like a really nice welcome after being alone, basically.
All campsites need to have cookies.
Oh, just anytime you get fresh chocolate chip cookies, you're like,
oh, they baked cookies?
Yeah, they were like baked cookies. Like, they're like, we bake these every day in case cyclists come. And I was like, what? You guys are way too cool. So, a little Ziploc bag full of cookies.
What was the border crossing like?
Uneventful.
Uneventful, yeah. I had a terrible time, but I was in San Juan, so I don't know. I think I caught a bad border agent, too. But.
Yeah, I just took my time and went, like, last, and he's like, is there anything I should know that you have in these bags? And I was like, no, nothing.
No, sir. Nothing illegal in here.
Yeah. And
Did they ever expect... I wonder if they ask those questions. Clearly it must work sometimes. Sometimes somebody must say... bag full of pot. Oh,
damn! But it's legal here, right?
Trying to smuggle in my pot, and I admitted it. You clever border agent. Yeah, I don't know. Must work.
Somebody somewhere has been caught by that, you know,
with their clever ruse of asking a direct question, you know. Border Patrol.
They were super.
They have a job to do. Good for them.
They did it too, but they were more like curious about how long I was going to be in the States. So, like, you're not going to get a job and things like that. Right. And I was like, well, no, I don't think I need one. I think I'll be all right. But yeah, so they were pretty nice. They were more like worried about how I was going to get down, like the highway and stuff. They're like, you know, like, it's dangerous up there. You should take the Olympic Peninsula route and like take their bike paths. So they definitely seen a lot of cyclists come through.
Oh, that's good.
And so they were actually steered me in the right direction. It's like, and also, you know, that the state park campsite's closed, which we found out those English guys didn't know it was. So that's the border guy was the guy who actually told me that, and he's like, you can't stay there. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even know it existed.
Yeah, right.
No.
Because you're working off of the ACA maps primarily, right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And I introduced you to the book.
Yeah.
As all listeners of the show know by now. But, yeah, it's... the ACA maps are great, but it's almost like too much information.
It's a lot, because they don't... it's just the map without the book is sort of... You end up doing days that you shouldn't do. Because I was kind of timing it wrong, let's say, and some of them you don't have like that nice elevation profile, so you're like, I'm gonna just book it to this nice cheap state park tonight, but it turns out that one had some major climbs in it, or did some weird meandering things that you could have avoided, and you're like, well, wish I'd had another source, another book, another something that I could have hit up, and that's where the book is. It's actually great, because
but here's the irony. If you had followed the book, you would have been at a different campsite in Newport than I was at. Because I deviate from the book for a variety of reasons, and we'll talk more about those as we go along.
Yeah.
But, we would never have met up if you had followed that. So it's just, sometimes it's happenstance, you know?
And it works out better that way, too, you know? Because where the book has you staying there, it kind of breaks it up into, like, more scenic, which I still got anyway, so you just gotta bike a little faster.
Yeah, there are all sorts of different ways to do this. Yeah. We've run into people who, you know, some people are doing it a lot shorter days, some people doing crazy-ass long days, but, you know, that 60 to 70 mile sweet spot, and some days you're gonna have to do 40s just because of the way things are spaced out. Like tonight, it was a hard 40 miles here,
Yeah.
But if we could have done 60, I'll bet you we would have done 60 today.
Yeah.
Because we did 60 yesterday. Thank God.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of deviating from the book,
That's a
holy
good choice.
moly! I every once in a while, especially when I'm in the middle of writing this, I really have to question the sanity levels of the folks who came up with that route, because there's some days that are just unnecessarily hard, and if a little deviation makes things better. But also, that book is. What do we say, 12, 15 years old, something like that? So it's missing information on, the park we stayed at last night.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be a kind of a low-grade, lousy place to stay, apparently, based on their description. But now it's fantastic. They even had free Wi-Fi for us.
Yeah.
I mean, but that was because of the fires, I guess. But
you could still bring a pizza there, even if without the Wi-Fi.
we were within spitting distance of Walla, California, one of the great towns on the Pacific Coast. But
yeah.
all right, so let's back up. You're here in Washington State. What was sort of your highlight and your low light of Washington State?
Highlight of Washington State. I made myself a long day towards Astoria because I was having bike troubles, and throughout there's no real spot. Mm-hmm. So after Bay Center, in the middle of a cut block, I kind of pulled off and set up camp there. And while I was hanging out, just waiting for the sun to go down kind of thing, this huge herd of elk, I guess is what they were, just starts charging through this clear cut. And it's only me sitting in this clear cut on top of a massive old growth stump watching these elk bound across, and they didn't really stop or care anything about me. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. Who can I share this with? There's
You're
no one around.
As you turn and say, hey, did you see? Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
That's cool. Washington State gets probably the most disses of all of the 3 states in terms of amenities, but I'm curious, what was maybe a low light for you?
Low light, I'd say the problem with Washington State is I brought a lot of it onto myself.
Okay.
Because I was under a timeline to meet my friend in Astoria.
Astoria, right.
And so I was kind of trying to do longer days, and that there just wasn't the same, meeting people and things like that you hit once you hit Oregon coast and you're going down. Suddenly there's other cyclists to hang out with. Mm-hmm. And so I'd say it was just sort of when you're out alone and there's no one around, but probably the most fun low and a low highlight was when my bike this is the first time I've had bike trouble, and you're in the middle of nowhere, and I was like, oh God, what do I do? I have no experience. I can't really fix anything. I can adjust a derailleur and basic things, and so here I've lost 8 spokes, and I'm biking along the highway and worried that every little pothole is going to send my wheel into a little sandwich.
You lost 8 spokes.
Yeah.
This is not a minor thing.
No, it was just, it had a great wobble, and I found if I went over 25 kilometers, it was,
of course.
It could hold together, and, but as soon as I started going slower up the hills, you would feel it just start wobbling. Yeah, and you're like, oh, this isn't going to last. I'm gonna get stuck. We're going to have to hitchhike. It won't work out.
That's a quality low light. I think we'll go with that.
Yeah.
Oregon. Cross that bridge. You're in Astoria.
Great bridge.
Over the Columbia River.
Yeah.
One of the great rivers of the world.
Yeah. It was such a fun bridge, though. It's so fast. The wind just whips you across into Astoria. I had a great time there, hanging out, waiting for them to fix my wheel. Mm-hmm. I don't remember the name of the bike shop, but they were great. They set me up. But highlight for Oregon Coast, I had a great time when I was at Nehalem State Park.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one.
That's a great hiker-biker, and it was the first time I'd been to such a, the Oregon Coast, classic Oregon Coast, huge, big sandy beaches with dunes, and you can just walk forever. And so I got there, set up my tent, met some actual cyclists who were doing some other stuff. I was like, oh, wow, there's other people on this route. Where are you guys going? And so then I went out with them and just went out and saw this great sunset on the Oregon coast. It was a great start to the trip. But yeah, and of course meeting you.
And then down Newport, about midway down the coast, that's where I come in. And I rented the car and from Portland, ditched that, and then it was if it was a mile to camp, maybe it was a mile. It was over the bridge, and then that was it, because we were at South Beach State Park. And then the next morning you're like, hey, do you know anything about any of this? I'm like, I've done this once or twice.
I might be a useful resource.
I may be a useful resource, yeah. I'm trying to think, Oregon for me, what was the highlight? It's always great.
Oh, it's so
the
nice.
The amenities. I'm trying to think if there was any big surprise on this route.
I have to go back and remember.
Pacific City. You did Pacific City. Talk about Pacific City.
I forgot about Pacific City.
Because you stayed at the same campground that I have as well, and the bunnies and all that.
So. Oh my god, I forgot all about the bunnies. It's only been 10 days since then.
Is that crazy?
I already forgot.
Yeah.
So like all of Oregon coast, every campsite has bunnies. Like way too many bunnies. It just makes no sense. There's like, keep your dog on a leash because it's gonna find some bunnies.
Yep.
And so the one I stayed at, I did like a beautiful ride I didn't stay. The book suggests to stay in Cape Lookout.
Cape Lookout, which is many say is the best of all of the Oregon coast state park campsites.
And see, this is where I didn't have a book. I didn't know, and so at the end of the day, if you stay there, you don't have this massive hill to climb.
No, you do not.
And so I just was like, I'm going to Pacific City. It's going to be great. It's got city in the name. I can buy some groceries. And so just go past Cape Lookout, climb this wonderful hill. It was a great descent.
It is a big hill. One of the bigger ones on the Oregon's coast.
And pull into Pacific City and stay at the county campground behind the big hotels right by the brewery. And that campsite is nothing special. It's just a campsite. But what it offers around is so nice. You have like the brewery, so you get dinner, you get a drink, and then these huge sand dunes just outside of town, just a little bit off, and you climb up there, and I met a whole bunch of really fun people who were touring from mostly Canada and some of the States, and they were just up there watching the sunset and catching the last rays of daylight.
Yeah.
And then you all walk back, and you hang out at the little Pelican Brewery for the rest of the night, and
which is literally on the beach, as many of you have seen pictures of from my past tours. It's an amazing place.
Oh my god, yeah, it was so fun. You're just like, hey, let's go hang out
You're
here
like,
afterwards.
This does not suck. This does not suck.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to think, I have bike touring brain right now. I'm like you. I'm just sort of like, okay, well, what was sort of the highlight of Oregon? Like, I remembered Humbug I usually found to be really lousy. Or not lousy, but like, this is the last campsite in Oregon, and I've always found it to be a little depressing, but this time it was actually pretty good. There was a good group of people there. There was plenty of room. Everything seemed good. The host was really good.
Really nice showers there, too.
Good showers,
cleaned up. They were free. That's the great thing about Oregon, too, is free showers everywhere. You never have to worry about that. You pay $5, and it's just... They take care of you really well. No, they have a great beach there too. Short walk.
Near Humbug there.
Humbug. The name really didn't sell it for me when I was initially planning it. I was like, Humbug Mountain. Yeah, it sounds like a crap.
Sounds
I'm
terrible.
Not going there.
Yeah. And then the next morning you get to see the dinosaurs and all that other kind of stuff. Yeah, there's just like fun, crazy stuff in Oregon. I never get tired of biking in that state.
Wait, is that also after the dinosaurs? Do you get the Paul Bunyan?
The Paul Bunyan's in California. That's 2 days.
See, they're already melted together.
2 or 3 days later. Yeah.
After the redwoods. Yeah.
Right.
Trees of Mystery.
And it was by that point that I think that you got to the point where you trusted the cadence of my schedule, and I was like, everybody does 40 miles. But I'm doing 70 because I'm getting to Crescent City tomorrow, damn it. Like I always do because and just to get closer to those South Crescent City hills, because that's the first real deal climb. Well, other than the Cape Lookout hill, which is a real deal. But we skipped over the Seven Devils. That was the other thing that I sold.
Yeah.
I sold hard.
Yeah,
and we had that weird marathon that day.
Oh my god! Yeah, I was trying. That was a good wind day too.
We had a great wind. We had great tailwind that day.
And then because we pulled in, and I was like, "Oh, it's really early. Maybe I'll think about going over those." Because I was still like unsure if you were as knowledgeable as you seemed. Could make it in. And then we got there, and I was like, "This is a nice campsite." They had us kind of tucked away a little bit, but it wasn't. Yeah,
that was the one that was a little disappointing. That was the Sunset Bay.
Sunset Bay,
Bay, which is I love the location of it. But they were redoing their hiker-biker, and so they had us in this, like, really cruddy spot.
Yeah.
It had no good spots for tents. Like
On pavement.
On pavement. Oh, yeah, I literally pitched my tent on pavement, because that was the only flat spot that was left, and it wasn't even all that flat. But
No, that was, not great.
I'd say that was the low point of Oregon.
It rained.
Did it rain that day?
In that morning. It spat at us before we hit the Devils.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we lied. That's right. We had rain twice then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about it. But we didn't ride in it. It was just kind of bleh.
I haven't ridden in a drop of rain so far. And according to Dark Sky, no rain. I would say Sunset Bay was the low light. And although I love the Seven Devils, since there was a race that was going on while we were going on it, I felt like my pure bliss of enjoying the Seven Devils, because one of the great things is that you're often just alone up there. There's just an occasional car. And the fact that I was like, going past a few runners, huffing and puffing, in the opposite direction, that sort of took a little bit of it out for me, but the ride is so great.
Yeah, I was the exact opposite. I loved having other people who weren't cars coming at me, and they're just suffering as much as you are, and you're just cheering them on, and they're like, oh, whoa, somebody else. And I really enjoyed that, because there was... They stopped traffic too, which was a little confusing because sometimes you'd be like in the runner's lane or in the car lane, but I don't know, I enjoy it. And then you could get water at the top of the hill. When else do you
That's right, yeah. There were more amenities,
They
I suppose.
had a feed station, which was cool.
I was glad that the graffiti in the pavement was still there in many spots. That is one of the highlights. If you follow the Twitter feed and the Instagram and all that, you saw my pictures of it. Every year I keep swearing I'm going to go back with spray paint just to make sure that they're more indelibly put in there, because one of these days they're going to disappear, and that's sad to me.
Yeah, for sure. They're so rewarding when you see them, and they're just sort of, well, you'll have to do it to find out what they say.
You're only a devil number 5. Ha,
Yeah.
ha, 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 I mean, yeah, it's a great ride, and it gets you into Bandon, and then you're just sort of realizing after that screaming descent down to Bandon, you're like, wow, I'm a third of the day done, and it's only been a couple hours. This is great, yeah.
Yeah, Bandon was a nice place to hang out. They have laundry and food, and then you just get the rest of that day was just
That's a great day.
Yeah.
That's a great day. It's funny because the Oregon
That's to Humbug, right? Yeah.
Sunset to Humbug, yeah. That's right. The Oregon coast I feel like is easier than the California coast. What do you think?
Oh, I'd agree 100%, because it's more like today you're doing hills versus, well, from what I've experienced, the California coast, sure, you have the classic big hills coming out of Crescent City, and you have Leggett and things like that, but Oregon coast, I don't know.
It's manageable.
Yeah, exactly. You're kind of you can see the top of everything, You're I can get through this, I'll make it, and I'm happy.
The elevation gain and loss is much lower than the portions of the California coast we just went through, and I think you have the data to support that.
Oh, so much, yeah. But the thing that's also, I had a lot of luck with wind in Oregon, too.
Yes.
I got some days averaging 30 at some places, and I'm like, well, this is obscene, and I barely do anything. So I think if we'd had wind today, we could have done that in a heartbeat.
We did not have wind today. I can assure all listeners, we did not have wind today.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. But, any other thoughts on Oregon?
Places that I would hit up again in Oregon would be, I definitely visit Pacific City.
It's my favorite town on the Oregon coast.
Yeah, it's a great little town just to stop at, if you stopped at Cape Lookout, you'd miss out on it because it's too early in the morning.
Yep.
And it's you want to actually spend some time there and restock and hang out and chill. I'm trying to think of other cities. Lincoln, Tillamook.
Lincoln sucks just because it's just so trafficky.
Yeah.
There is the Pig and Pancake there, though, which...
Missed out on that.
I'm
going to have a look because I want to see what I remember. But most days, Seven Devils was definitely better.
Seven Devils is so good.
Because it's just really good riding. Oh my god, if you want the most disgusting, largest cinnamon bun of your whole life, it was in...
Was it Port Orford?
No, Charleston. Right before you climb up to Seven Devils there, it was I don't know, 9 inches. It was basically a brownie tray of... And I was like, can I have half? And they're like, no, we don't sell half. Only in America, right? Okay.
I've had some large portions in your fine country, trust me.
Oh, I bet. Of poutine, though.
You just said the word. Oh, no. I would so eat the hell out of some poutine.
Oh, today would be good for it.
Today would be a great day for it. So Oregon, It's just amazing.
It's in my mind. It was my favorite part of what I've done.
I think California gets you into like graduate level stuff because you cross over and you get, especially if you do it the way that we do it, or we did it. It's flat to start after Brookings, and you really can do those last 20 miles if you aren't tired. If you can do it, I always recommend it. We stayed at a KOA, but I've just recently learned from MJ, Mysterious James, listeners of the show know him, that there is actually another state or county park option that was like within 2 miles of that, and would be a lot cheaper and a lot better probably. But staying in Crescent City gives you the great option of starting your morning, getting all your stuff together in Crescent City. There's tons of, I think it was a Safeway, and there's even a Starbucks for crying out loud. But getting all your stuff, and then boom, you're right into the hills. But it gives you just enough of a warm-up because, but it's at the beginning of your day, because those hills are real deal.
Yeah, that's your first experience without a lot of shoulder. When you're in Oregon, they give you all the shoulder you could want in most places.
Most of the time. Most of the time, yeah.
Compared to what we've dealt with recently. And so, but those hills, you want to be fresh. It feels so, because there was construction on them. Yeah. And those construction zones where they're just okay, you got to sprint for 300 meters.
Those are the bane of a bicycle tourist existence, especially a Pacific Coast bicycle tourist.
I had no idea coming in. It's something I didn't even think about. That I was construction zones on a bike, yeah,
and that's why this is actually a good pro tip here. I always recommend, the ACA does a pretty good job of saying where there's sort of exclamation points, hey, you should be looking here. Yeah. But going on Caltrans's website, they do a really good job of saying where all of these construction zones are, so that you can kind of at least see what's going on, because it's not insignificant. Sometimes there's no impact for being on a bike. Sometimes it's, oh, great, it's this, half-mile section that is uphill at a 40-degree angle, and you got to wait for a light, and it's
there's a line of cars behind you.
There's a line of cars, yeah.
And there's gravel bouncing through it, and you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, exactly. So, sometimes it's good to know these things ahead of time, so. But, so California, what to say so far? Now, you've only experienced, of course, the northern portion of it so far.
The best part.
It's pretty great. It really is.
If you like trees, Northern California is the place for you.
Avenue of the Giants.
Redwoods.
Those the South Crescent City hills, which are hard as hell. But I will say, for me, the highlight of this trip was Elk Prairie.
Oh, yeah.
For a couple of reasons. Number one, the Roosevelt elk were literally on top of us. I mean, they were just grazing in the center of the campsites. And it was just so magical, just gliding in after this. You have this really tough climb, and then about a 5 mile or so glide down there, and you go through these beautiful redwood grove. It's really magical. And then to get into camp, and I'm like, oh, very excited. We'll get to why I was excited in a second. But I was like, oh, looking forward to dinner, and boom, there's half a dozen Roosevelt elk with just mature and just chilling out and looking around, and it was a great way to start the evening.
Yeah, it was. I was gonna say definitely that day was a highlight for me too, because it was, you covered a lot of terrain from Crescent City, and you were going up and down, and then you finish your day and you're just coasting through the biggest trees imaginable, and there was no traffic. Again, I don't know. October, time to go.
October, because it's perfect weather in October, always.
It's sunny every day.
Sunny every day.
No cars. It was, and I've never seen trees so big, and I was just looking up and bouncing off the
Folks, this is a guy from Canada who just said he'd never seen trees so big. So. And of course, the great part about that day was it was Thanksgiving in Canada.
It was.
So we really plotted for, I think, 2 or 3 days prior to that what we were going to do for that meal, and I think we nailed it. We nailed it so much that I repeated it a few nights since then. I've had multiple Canadian Thanksgiving dinners, but we did the canned chicken. I've subsequently found canned turkey. It is possible to find that, but the canned chicken was fine. Got the turkey gravy. We got a cranberry. We had potatoes, and we had the stovetop stuffing.
Yeah.
We
had a pie.
Oh yes, and you got the sweet potato pie, because you were about to buy something wrong, and you're like, they have something called sweet potato pie. I was like, that's the one.
It's basically, if you've never had it, it's basically a pumpkin pie, but
feels like it has not gone north of the border yet.
No,
sweet potato pie is a fine pie.
I should bring it.
Oh yeah, you could introduce him.
Yeah.
I'll trade you poutine for
No.
sweet potato pie.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
like, no.
I don't need that.
All the sweet potato pie people are like, what the hell's poutine? Why are you trading? Stop.
I'll just stick with pumpkin. It's almost the same.
That was a great. I've got a video of our meal that I'll put up in the show notes as well, along with some of the other videos that I shot on this trip. But yeah, that was a hell of a meal.
Yeah, it was so much food.
That was good. We had a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
It was great. There were other Canadians, and I was like, maybe we should go share some of this. And then we ate the whole thing ourselves, including the pie. I think you had the final bit of pie at breakfast.
I did, yeah.
But like that was an insane amount of food.
Yeah.
Insane amount of food.
I'd do it again, though. You know,
Yeah.
you just get hungry and you just keep eating. And
Yeah, just like from an experience standpoint, that was, I think, my highlight of California.
And it was so easy, too, you know?
It's shocking.
Kind of like worried. Like in my head, I was like, oh, I'd like to do this on my own. It's Canadian Thanksgiving. And then you had these great ideas, and I was like, oh, this man with a plan. Let's figure this out.
Maybe we'll throw out the ideas here in case, because we got American Thanksgiving coming up next month.
That's true, yeah.
If you're out on a bike tour, so you get your freezer bag cooking. I've talked about this on the show. Use the freezer bag technique with those instant mashed potatoes. And you do that and just leave them in the cozy. They'll be fine. And then you make the gravy. And second stove is boiling water because I should back up. There's two stoves. You got one stove that's doing just water. One stove that you're going to be doing basically the turkey and the gravy. So the turkey and the gravy stove. Start the gravy. Put in the chicken or turkey or whatever you've got, and just put that in there and just let that sort of slowly simmer away. You just basically need to heat that up. The hot water is used for the potatoes and for the stuffing, and that's it. And then crack open that cranberry. And then basically it was done in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Less?
How long it took to boil water, pretty much.
Basically, yeah. And it was shocking how good it was. Like, I'm not saying it's grandma, category of cooking here, but it was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. I'll stack up that Canadian Thanksgiving meal to I'd compare it to some in Canada. I'll bet you we ate better than some people in Canada that day.
Probably.
It was pretty great. Challenges. I'm trying to think what would be the best way to describe the challenges of riding in California up to this point.
Getting used to being on narrow roads.
Narrower roads and no shoulders on Highway 1.
Yeah, those are like standard things, but people were pretty considerate for the most part. Very few RVs. I'd say what's been my biggest...
Got to give ups to the traffic. Like the vehicles were good. I don't think either of us had any complaints.
No, not like just like one a day being like, oh, something funny happened. But most of the time, traffic is on your side.
Yeah, I've had good clearance. It's been all good.
But I don't know what's you have to go back and think about like what day it was something.
Talk about how sketchy Garberville is.
Oh yeah,
and Eureka.
It's not a stop you want to make.
Garberville's a place where it's kind of a necessary stop for groceries usually.
Yeah.
But get in, get out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's efficient.
With apologies to Garberville residents who may or may not listen to this show. Garberville's kind of a sketchy town. Eureka has kind of the same vibe.
Yeah, I just stopped before Eureka. I had a great time. I stopped because I was.
You stopped in Arcata, right?
Arcata, yeah. I had some bike troubles, and so I pulled over there. And great bike shop helped me out.
Oh yeah. Do you remember the name of it? Because you were going to
R&B Cycles.
The bike shop in Arcata. There's no way. There's more than one.
There is more than one.
Oh, there is. Never mind.
But Arcata's great with they have so many cycle paths everywhere. Yeah. And then I got the best donuts I've ever had in my life.
Oh, that's right. You were very excited about the donuts. Don's Donuts.
Donuts. It was so fun. I just sat there and ate a lot of donuts blissfully.
So good. Yeah. Listeners know that I've given up sugar pretty much, except for while I'm bike touring. So I've been eating lots of sugar. I'm so sick of it. I cannot wait to get it out of my system. I've eaten so many Snickers bars just for calories, but I'm tired of it, and I can't wait to go back. But that said, I've had some good sticky buns.
Yeah,
some good stuff out there. I think. The ups and downs. I think that the elevation gain in the very rugged coast. Yeah,
if you wanted to break it up even more than we're doing, you could definitely spend an extra day going through here because it was the most elevation. You do Leggett, that's 1,000 meters. Then you do the day afterwards, we did 65 miles at 1,300 meters elevation.
Yeah,
and those are big days that drain a lot out of you. And so if you want to break those up, maybe that could be it. But I'd say if I was doing this in the summer too, it'd be a lot of competing with the heat because you've now hit dry, open areas.
You know what's interesting is in the summer, I think it's about the same temperature in a lot of these places. Now, coming inland here, it gets really hot. Well, you remember the morning we left Burlington, which is probably another highlight. Yeah. I always talk about Burlington. That's on the Avenue of the Giants. Normally, I get up and I rocket out of there at 5 a.m. as quick as I can because, A, I want to spend as little time in Garberville as possible. But, B, it's hot as fuck. And, I just am like, okay, let's get through this. But we woke up and it was 36 degrees that morning, Fahrenheit.
Yeah. And it was, you could see, like, if it had been even hotter, like, going up those hills, it would have just been sufferable. But
it does suck. I've done it in the heat. It sucks.
Because you're just big, huge, wide shoulder of 101, and it would cook you.
That was the biggest mindfuck for me because having to wait till it warmed up was really strange for me being in Burlington because normally I'm rocketing out of there as quick as I can.
Most days ever since then, too, it's slowed me down. I've been like, well, I'll just wait till it warms up because it will, and you just take a little chiller. But, getting into Standish Hickey, though, I really enjoyed. I got there a little earlier and walked down to where they closed the rest of the campsite.
That was very nice of you to say. He's, like, substantially faster than
Not every day. And I kind of like, there's the big river and nobody was around and you could just go sit in it. Yeah. And it was amazing. And
had the peg house, you can grab what you needed.
The peg house brownies. Brownies at the top of Legged Hill. That's what you have to do.
Yeah. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. Peg house is, it's usually some surly people there, but it's a good stop.
It's kind of a nice vibe of surly too, though. You know? I was like, they're kind of a little at you and you're like, okay, I'll behave.
All right, so we just got slightly interrupted there, but, that's how we do it. Okay, we're doing it live. And I already forgot what we were talking about because I have bike touring brain. I think we're in California.
We're in California. We were bicycling, as you could probably guess.
Yeah. That is amazing. This was literally 30 seconds ago.
Where were we on the coast? We were talking about Peg House.
Peg House.
Peg House. There we were. And right before Leggett, the big classic.
Right.
And we were...
What did you think about Leggett? Did you think it was overhyped or underhyped?
I think it was the right amount of hype. Because had no one told me about it, it would have been way harder. But seeing as there was like a lot of like, it's a big hill, prepare. Mentally, I was ready for it, and you're like, let's do this. But I think it was a great climb. If you want to just go
I've grown to love it.
Yeah. You just pick a gear, keep it, don't rush up. Just enjoy the switchbacks, because they are endless, and keep going and keep you entertained the whole time. It's not like a highway where you could just sit on and go crazy. You're sort of engaged and turning and paying attention to what's going on. So I really actually love that. And there's no wind. There's nothing like really slowing you down.
Yeah, and starting at at Standish Hickey, it's the same thing. It's like you got a little bit of a warm up, and then boom, you're right into it.
Oh yeah, that was ideal. And it kind of fooled me though. You go down before you start going.
Isn't that the funny? I forget about that every time I do it. Yeah, that there's a pretty substantial downhill before you do it, and you're like, am I on the right road?
Did I make the turn wrong? Oh, okay, here we go. And then it just takes you all the way to the top, and a bit anticlimactic at the top, not gonna lie. I was expecting like a big vista views.
That's the one thing that really sucks, is that there's not a... Yeah, it's anticlimactic. There's no view. If you peek through the trees at a lot of spots, you will see kind of a nice view. Yeah. But it's kind of hard to make it out. I think that there would be some stunning views, but I absolutely do not want those trees to be chopped down to give me a stunning view. Yeah,
like I pulled off and hiked up at one of the spots and ate my brownie at the top there. And nice. Even then, you could just sort of make out the ocean. But I loved cruising along. And once you get to the top, it's just kind of like very little elevation change. You just cruise right across the top, and then those downhills.
Just bomb down, and it's just this great, one of the best descents of the whole trip. Although there's some really good ones. Today and yesterday both had some really good ones.
Today had a great one, yeah.
Today had some really great ones where you're just like going down this big hairpin, and it's so great. But Middle Finger Hill, Rockport Hill, sucked as much as it's just stupid.
I that one I felt I was worried. I was like, it's how after Leggett, how bad could that one be? Leggett was early and enjoyable.
It's a thing that saps your energy, though.
Yeah, exactly. I underestimated that one, let's say, because it is steeper. I was in my easiest gears the whole time and was just like, whoa, bugger, this is coming at you.
Yeah, and then that last 15 miles to McCarricher, that's like not fooling around kind of terrain, too. No. You're only doing 40 miles that day, but I'd argue that that's... it's as hard as today was, and today was pretty hard.
Yeah, and they throw you on like some narrow roads again there too. Oh yeah, they have huge wind-swept areas along that whole beach.
Yep.
Again, if you get lucky, you could be in there really quickly. But I think it's also like a fun kind of hard, but also narrow shoulders. You're getting that section on one. You're getting into your narrow shoulders again, and
I think that's where the one starts. So. Yeah.
So,
but it's good, and then you're in Fort Bragg, and Fort Bragg's a good town. We went to North Coast Brewing.
Oh, definitely hit that.
That was good.
Yeah,
we started our pizza nights.
Yeah,
we had a few pizza nights.
So worthwhile. Ride bikes, eat pizza.
Yeah. Oh yes. Your T-shirt says that. Therefore, you must do it. I'm trying to think. Any advice that you would give for first timers, especially, because this is your first kind of big trip. Anything about gear? Anything about mental expectations?
You don't need as many clothes as you think.
Mm-hmm. There's a guy in a big red truck.
Yeah.
Oh, there's another guy who just appeared.
Occupied.
Okay, I need your name. Please get them.
Okay. I'm Daniel.
I'm Tim.
Oh, it's fine.
Oh, we got to come down?
Yeah.
To be continued. Well, we can continue our conversation.
Okay.
Again, biker brain, I don't even remember where we were at.
We were at...
Challenging hills where we...
After Leggett, we were talking about that and things to be surprised about. We got into Manchester.
Oh, I know exactly where we were. What would be your advice to a first-timer?
Oh, advice, right. So as...
Based on your 21 days of experience.
My 21 days of things that I would definitely just pack away lighter.
Mm-hmm.
You can always do laundry. Bike touring is incredibly cushy.
Right.
You're always available. You're always near something if you do it right.
Around here,
least, like, you can always just make do, you know? You never really end up alone that often. Like, sure, definitely you will be alone, but you can always get, like, a grocery store or something. You can always find it. If you have a tent, a warm sleeping bag, you can always take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And... because I brought way too much stuff.
Because it also never rains here.
I have been told.
It did.
We've been really lucky.
Yeah.
But yeah. So pare down the gear. Anything else?
Pare down the gear. Positive attitude, and it'll always be sunny. No, just be comfortable with, like, I'd say the strangest thing was just being alone for most of the time. You know, like. You can put on music, you can put on other stuff, but being comfortable with pedaling and just sort of being like, well, I don't know what I have to do. Accept that. Be happy with that. And be like, well, I don't have to rush anywhere. I'll just stop and take in this view. No one's, like, else is there. Like, when you're in a car or something, and there's, like, pressure to get places, and it's harder to pull off. When you're on a bike, like, take that extra minute, pull off, snap your photo, eat your little snack. You're never in a rush. And if you are in a rush, you're doing it wrong, you know, you're behind, or like, that's why I think I didn't really like Washington, is because I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to get places. And so if you actually just accept that you can only go as fast as your legs go, and you can actually be like, yeah, this is really nice, I'm going to stop and enjoy this big tree, I'm going to stop and enjoy this nice sandy view, and, you know, like, actually enjoy every little bit of it. Yeah.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for being a riding partner. It's been great.
You too. I've thoroughly enjoyed all of your helps and helpful tips and all that. It's been great.
All my nonsense. Big thanks again to Daniel, and apologies for sort of the haphazard fits and starts and stops of this conversation, but I thought I'd leave it all in there, warts and all, just because sort of described how the conversation went. And it was a really great ride. Daniel, I believe, has taken a break here in the Bay Area as well, and will be continuing south, as he had mentioned. And we'll stay in touch with him and hopefully get a report, at least, if not maybe having another conversation with him later on in the year or early next year about how the rest of the ride went and what his feedback was and what his thoughts were for the rest of things. As always, we like to close out the show with a big thank you to all the supporters of the show through the Pedalshift Society. If you like what you hear, you can help maintain Pedalshift as an independent, listener-supported voice while expanding the offerings. We're talking $5, $2, or even $1 a month. Helps with the cost of hosting the podcast and the website. You can do it for a bit and cancel anytime. We've also got one-shot support if you're not into the small monthly thing. Check it out and join at pedalshift.net/society. On to the Society. Ethan Georgi, Kimberly Wilson, Caleb Jenkinson, Cameron Lane, Andrew MacGregor, Michael Hart, Josiah Matthews, Keith Nagel, Brock Dittus, Thomas Skadow, Seth Krieger, Marco Lowe, Terrance Manson, Noah Schroer, Harry Telgadas, John Sikorski, Richard Killian, Chris Barron, Scott Taylor, Brian Hren, Mark Van Raam, Brad Hipwell, Paul Mulvey, Stuart Buchan, Todd Stutz, Mr. T, Roxy Arning, Nathan Poulton, Harry Hugel, Ferguson Meek, Stephen Dickerson, Vince LaGreco, Ruth Divorcey, Michelle Miller, Matthew Lewis, Michael Baker, Billy Crafton, Paul Culbertson, Scott Culbertson, Matt Perry, Danielle Jepson, Cody Florshinger, Tom Beninati, and Bobby Ruppel, and of course all anonymous and past contributors. Thank you for helping make this show happen. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedalshift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedalshift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Mono Mono, wherever cool music is available.